Two percenters, we have here a 2003 Chevy Tahoe, which actually has been here before, and in this case it's a very good thing. You may remember approximately a year and a half ago, this vehicle was here with a non-functioning speedometer. The owner of the vehicle was really leery about having me take a look at it because, of course, I'm not a professional and all that. We used our scientific diagnosis to conclusively show he needed a new IP, and we replaced it. The car has been running great, and as I promised, he was going to be a convert if he ever needs anything again. He will certainly be contacting me. That is the basis of my business model, and it has proven once again to be accurate. So he states that he has no symptoms with the car except for a check engine light, runs perfectly fine. He brought it to an AutoZone where they diagnosed, well, did not diagnose, where they told him that it's a mass airflow issue and he needs a mass airflow sensor. So he brought the car to me actually to replace the mass airflow sensor. Obviously, not being a parts changer, I am not going to do that. We're going to diagnose and see if that is actually what he really needs. So let's go ahead and take a look at it. I think it's been a little while since I used the launch scan tool from my friends at Launch, the CRP Touch Pro. Let's go ahead and break that thing out and see what it finds. All right, while I load this up, I got to say I'm really grateful to my friends at Launch for letting me keep this after my review of the tool. I do use this thing pretty regularly. It's just a lot easier than setting up my PC and all that. And I use it a lot when I'm doing mobile diagnostics and things, so pretty helpful. Let's see if it'll find the vehicle. That does look like a GM VIN number, so that's good. All right, let's see what we got here. We've got a fuel trim system lean bank 2 and a misfire. Those are obviously linked. And we've got a evap code 0455. That's going to be a large leak code. That is almost guaranteed to be a gas cap. We may go ahead and just take a look at that one real quick, because if the gas cap is loose, then that's going to be the call there. If we end up having to use the smoke machine on this, what is likely to be a single bank vacuum leak, then we'll also smoke test that evap system. But that's almost always a gas cap. And if I take the gas cap off and see a gasket is broken or it just comes off really easily, then that'll be a good call there. Could be the bad gas cap and a leak in the system as well, but either way we would know we would need a gas cap there. I'm more interested in the 0174, so we've got a lean on one bank causing misfires. Let's start this car up, see if we can get some live data. Starts right up, sounds great, really no problems. Oh, look at that fuel trim data. Maybe it'll just give me what I need very easily here. And there it is right there. Long terms, bank 1 and 2. We also, of course, want to bring in the short terms as well. Looking at bank 2 and bank 1, because even though we've got a bank 1 code, remember it just may be we have a vacuum leak affecting both banks, but it's just not affecting the second bank enough to cause the check engine light. Remember, we've seen that before, actually several times. That should be enough for me to get started here. And we have, well, there you go. What did I just say? We are just under the 25 threshold on bank 1, so this is going to be a whole engine vacuum leak, which may be a good thing, less likely to be an intake manifold. We see that it has zeroed the short trims. So let's see if we've got a vacuum leak here. We're going to increase RPM, and we definitely... Right, we definitely have a vacuum leak. Let's go ahead and graph those. Let it stabilize out for a little bit here. Let's give it some gas. And we can see them going negative. Both of them. Okay, vacuum leak. Well, that was pretty easy. I'm not sure why they're calling mass airflow sensor here. Your typical parts changing hack is going to be doing plugs and wires and oxygen sensors, but clearly we don't need that. As a matter of fact, we know for a fact we don't, because we do have the fuel trim adjustment, so we know for a fact that there's oxygen sensor activity. We could go back if we wanted and verify that. Let's get a bank 1 sensor. I don't want that one. I want bank 1 sensor 1. Let's get both the banks. So we can see we've got our O2 sensor oscillation. So putting O2 sensors in this vehicle would be very stupid. The misfire code, it's amazing they didn't recommend plugs and wires, but the misfire is due to the vacuum leak. So this should be pretty easy. Let's see if we can find this vacuum leak. Well, we got a diagnosis without even opening the hood once again. So now we just need to find where to make the repair. I noticed that this engine is drive-by-wire, so that kind of sucks a little bit because I'm by myself here. So what I'm going to do is hook up my Auto Ingenuity scan tool just so I've got bidirectional control. It just saves me from having to go back and forth to the gas pedal. And this is something I really need to get people to understand here because they just don't get it. I know most of you guys do, at least I hope you do, but the importance of what I'm doing here, well, why not just go and fix the vacuum leak? I'll bet I could find it. Yeah, I'm sure you could, but here's the thing. This is a 2003 car with probably a couple 100,000 miles on it. I have no idea how many miles it has. I really don't care. It's irrelevant. The thing is that I can just tell by looking at this engine that on a visual inspection, I'm going to find probably a dozen things. How do I know when I find something if that's going to fix it, if that's the problem? So I have to have my baseline data established so that if I do find a vacuum line off or something like that, when I repair that, is that what the real problem was, or was that just one of several problems contributing to this check engine light? If I fix a minor problem, but there's a larger contributor, this vehicle is going to come back because I didn't establish that my baseline has been corrected now. So I hope that that makes sense to you because it doesn't seem to make sense to a lot of people. I mean, to me, it is just plain science. So we just want to see what this looks like when it's broken so that when I fix it, it looks fixed. And you can't do that with just a visual inspection. Okay, the easiest way to do this is going to be to pull up some graphs. So let's pull up our long-term bank 1 and our long-term bank 2. Okay, so that's our red and blue. We can see that we're very high on those. I don't know if you can see the numbers up there in the top left, but I want to also try to fit in with what I do in the engine bay. I mean, not that that really matters. I'm sure you can figure out what I'll be doing. Let's bring up the short terms, of course. Okay. And then I also want to bring up the oxygen sensors in a separate screen here. So let's bring up bank 1, S1. Where's my bank 2? Okay, so now we've got all of our data set for baseline so that when I figure out what this problem is, we know that it is going to fix the car. Something that your typical hack just doesn't comprehend. All right, so we can see that we've got the short term zeroed here, which is interesting because we were at over 25 on, well, now it's reading a little bit lower, maybe because the engine's warmed up a little bit. Getting cold here in Denver now, so sometimes you'll find that happens as the engine warms up, this condition improves. Let me just verify one more time that we're seeing the same thing on this scan tool. So again, this is drive-by-wire car, so I'm going to use the computer to increase the idle RPM right there. All right, we can see definitely verified. And I just want to adjust the scales here a little bit. It'll make it easier for me to catch any minor variations that I induce. Okay, so now what I want to do is increase the RPM. This is why I'm using Auto Ingenuity, so I don't have to go in the car and do it. And just verify that we get response here. And we are on the short term, not quite yet on the long term. Okay, and we can see we're getting our response on the short term there. Not quite happening on the long term now, but of course we're in a different fuel cell, most likely, with the engine temperature. So those will start pulling down. We can see that they are actually much lower now. Bank 1 is 15. We're at 20 on bank 2. Let's bring that back to idle. Watch these increase. See, we did start an adjustment there on the long term. Okay, coming back up now on the short term. Kind of expect a little bit more of a response here, but again, we've got to keep in mind with the engine warmed up now, it's going to be a little harder to find this vacuum leak because it's not nearly as severe as what it was earlier. So anyway, as I said, we're going to use a method that I don't normally use, and that is going to use some brake clean. So, I know I go off on brake clean a lot, but again, people don't understand. I'm just not going to spray this engine down with brake clean with a misfire code, come to find out it's an open secondary, and set my house and this car on fire. Now that I know what I'm looking for, I can safely do this. So what I want to do is, there's a couple ways I can do this. I'm just going to spray in a couple areas after the MAF sensor on the induction. And nothing there. Let's spray along the intake manifold here. And there it is, right there. Got an intake manifold leak. I'm spraying on the bank 1 intake manifold. And we can see that we've identified a leak. Let's try it over on bank 2. And we have it on bank 2 also. Check that out. Intake manifold leak on both sides. Another way you can do this is we could look over. Wow, that's pretty significant, isn't it? Now, the other thing too, this is the importance of the baseline. If I was doing this by ear or something like that, what I know is that an intake manifold gasket replacement will fix this vehicle. I'm sure I could find any number of little bitty vacuum leaks, little tiny ones everywhere, but would those fix the car? Well, now I know, based on this response with the zeroed fuel trims, this is going to fix the car. So that's the importance of doing this. I really hope you guys understand that. If you get nothing else from this video, it's the importance that even if you do visual inspection, before you do that, you need to draw your baseline so you know if what you find will fix it. Let's go over to the oxygen sensors here so we can see our oscillation with the O2 sensors. I'm going to spray again. It doesn't really matter where I'm spraying for you guys, but what I'm going to do is make that O2 sensor go rich, spraying right along there, and check it out. Rich line on the O2 sensor for bank 1. We can do it with bank 2 as well, spraying right along the intake manifold. And as long as I hit the right, wherever it's leaking, I don't really care. We can see that we make that go rich too. Of course, once it stabilizes, it's going to lean out for a little bit. The fumes are pretty strong right now. Another reason I'm not crazy about brake clean, but it's causing a lot of abnormal oscillation with the O2 sensor until these fumes dissipate. But just another way of checking for the intake leak. So send that O2 sensor rich, you know you found it. Let's see if we can get that bank 2 sensor to wake up now. There he goes. All right, well, that is confirmed. So yeah, a real short one here, real easy diagnosis. Look at that, didn't even get my hands dirty at all. So how easy is that? Gotta love science. All right, and as you guys know, one of my favorite methods is the propane. And I like the propane better because of a couple reasons. First of all, no chance of starting a fire or anything. Even if there was, it would just only be a flash instead of having pools of flammable liquid. So I'm really not a huge fan of the brake clean. But the other thing it allows me to do is specifically find where a leak is. So, whereas the brake clean is just kind of splashing everywhere, here I can find the exact location of the leak. And not that it's important now because I've already verified it's going to be intake manifold. But if I wanted to, and if I'm able to get my focus here, okay, there you see I had it for a second there, but it just allows me to pinpoint a location a little better. So just another method. But it doesn't matter if I find one specific location on an intake manifold leak, then I'm going to replace those gaskets. And actually, I'm not. I no longer do major engine repair. I just don't have the time. So he'll have to take it to a monkey. But my work here is done. Well, kind of a bummer for this owner. It's a little bit of a major repair. I let him know what the situation was. He rather adamantly insisted that he wants me to fix the car, though, and he will pay me whatever it's worth for me to do it because he only trusts me now. Kind of a turning around of that train from a year and a half ago, isn't it? But that's what being honest and doing accurate diagnostics will do. It gets you a lot of loyalty, and it really increases your credibility with your customers. So, you know what? Yeah, it's going to make my weekend kind of miserable, but I think I'm going to go ahead and work something out with this guy and make sure that this car is fixed for him so he doesn't have to worry about it anymore. But for you guys, yeah, kind of a short video for the veterans on the channel, pretty much status quo, real easy diagnosis. But again, the importance of getting that baseline data so that I know for a fact, yeah, there was an intake manifold leak, no doubt about it. But what if I go through the whole expense and losing my whole weekend fixing a minor intake manifold leak, and it turns out that wasn't even really the big problem. The whole problem was a bigger leak somewhere else in the car that had nothing to do with the intake manifold. Well, then I would have been ripping off this customer. So it's also part of being honest with a customer is knowing your data baseline. So anyway, have a great weekend, guys. We'll see you again.